Pressure is not the enemy you think it is. Most people assume pressure means something is wrong, something is breaking, something is failing. But pressure often shows up not to destroy you, but to move you. Pressure is evidence that you are no longer where you used to be, yet not fully where you are going. It is the tension of transition. Nothing shifts without pressure. Seeds do not grow without pressure under the soil. Diamonds are not formed without pressure in the dark. Muscles do not strengthen without resistance. Pressure is the language of change. When life becomes tight, when options feel limited, when the room starts shrinking around you, it may not be because God is punishing you. It may be because God is positioning you. Pressure has a way of exposing what has been comfortable for too long. It challenges routines, questions assumptions, and interrupts cycles that no longer serve your future. What once felt normal suddenly feels heavy, and that heaviness is a signal that you have outgrown the space you are in. Pressure forces decisions that comfort would never require. As long as things are easy, we delay movement. We tolerate dysfunction, stay in places we have mastered, and cling to familiarity. Pressure removes the luxury of delay. It presses you to pray differently, think differently, and move differently. It awakens awareness. You start noticing what drains you, what limits you, and what no longer aligns with who you are becoming. Pressure also refines priorities. When everything is calm, distractions feel harmless. Under pressure, you discover what truly matters. You learn what deserves your energy and what needs to be released. Pressure strips away excess. It simplifies your focus. It exposes false dependencies and teaches you where your strength truly comes from. What cannot survive pressure was never meant to go into the next season with you. Many people mistake pressure for rejection. They assume resistance means they are on the wrong path. But resistance often shows up when movement is necessary. Doors begin to close, support systems shift, and environments that once welcomed you start pushing back. That pushback is not always opposition. Sometimes it is propulsion. Pressure is what moves you out of spaces you would otherwise refuse to leave. Pressure develops capacity. Transition demands more than intention. It requires strength. Pressure stretches you emotionally, mentally, and spiritually so you can carry what is next. Without pressure, promotion would crush you. Without pressure, responsibility would overwhelm you. Pressure prepares you by increasing your endurance and sharpening your discernment. It teaches you how to stand when things are uncertain and how to move when clarity is incomplete. Pressure also reveals identity. When everything is going well, it is easy to perform. Under pressure, performance fades and authenticity rises. You discover what you truly believe, what you truly trust, and who you truly are. Pressure shows you whether your confidence is rooted in circumstances or in purpose. It exposes whether your faith is dependent on outcomes or anchored in conviction. Pressure is often misunderstood because it is uncomfortable. Transition is rarely gentle. Change disrupts balance before it establishes alignment. The uneasiness you feel is often the adjustment phase. The internal shift before the external one appears. Pressure signals that something old is losing its hold and something new is demanding space. It is the sound of movement before the sight of arrival. Pressure does not mean you are stuck. It means you are being moved. It means your current structure can no longer contain your future. It means growth is happening beneath the surface, even if the results are not yet visible. Pressure signals that what was sufficient yesterday is insufficient today, and remaining the same is no longer an option. God moves before you see anything change, long before circumstances shift, before doors open, before evidence appears, movement has already begun. What you see is never the starting point, it is the result. The visible world reacts last. Decisions are made, alignments are set, and outcomes are prepared before they ever reach your eyesight. That is why waiting seasons feel confusing. You are standing in a place where motion is happening without manifestation. Most people want proof before trust. They want clarity before obedience. But movement does not start with visibility, it starts with intention. When God moves, He does not announce it with noise. He works quietly, strategically, often invisibly. While you are wondering why nothing looks different, things are being repositioned behind the scenes. Timing is being synchronized. Delays are being used to protect you from arriving too early to what you are not ready to handle. This is why impatience becomes dangerous. When you judge progress only by what you can see, you will assume nothing is happening and try to force change. But forced movement creates misalignment. God's movement is precise. Every step connects to another step you cannot yet identify. What feels like stillness is often preparation. What feels like silence is often instruction unfolding in layers you cannot yet hear clearly. Faith is required because sight is limited. You only see one frame of a much larger picture. God sees sequences, outcomes, consequences, and connections. When He moves comprehensively. He shifts people, opportunities, timing, and internal readiness all at once. If any part is out of place, the visible change must wait. What looks like delay is often synchronization. God also moves internally before He moves externally. Mindsets are adjusted, desires are refined. Character is strengthened, discernment is sharpened. You may feel restless, dissatisfied, or unusually reflective, not because something is wrong, but because internal movement is underway. When inner alignment happens first, external change becomes sustainable rather than overwhelming. Many miss this because they are looking for dramatic signs. They expect instant transformation, but real movement often looks subtle. Conversations happen that seem ordinary, ideas surface that seem small. Opportunities appear that seem unrelated. These are not random. They are pieces being placed. God rarely shifts everything at once. He builds momentum through small, intentional movements that only make sense later. When God moves before you see, trust becomes your anchor. You learn to walk without confirmation. You learn to obey without applause. You learn to stay steady when emotions fluctuate. This is where maturity grows. Anyone can believe when results are obvious. Growth happens when you remain faithful in the unseen phase, when the only assurance you have is conviction. Unseen movement also protects you. If you saw everything happening at once, fear would interfere, doubt would interrupt the process, pride might rush it by keeping movement hidden. God shields the process from sabotage, including self-sabotage. Some things must remain unseen until they are secure enough to stand without being questioned, rushed, or mishandled. God moving before you see also explains why change can feel sudden. What looks like overnight success, instant breakthrough, or unexpected opportunity is rarely sudden. It is the moment when hidden movement finally reaches visibility. The shift you notice is simply the final step of a process that has been unfolding quietly over time. When nothing seems to be happening, that is often when the most important movement is taking place. The lack of evidence is not the absence of activity. It is the absence of permission to see it yet. Trust fills the gap between movement and manifestation. Patience keeps you positioned. Awareness keeps you from abandoning the process too early. God moves ahead of your vision, ahead of your understanding, ahead of your expectations, arranging outcomes you will later recognize as perfectly timed. Discomfort is not a sign that you are failing. It is often proof that you are being invited into something greater. Destiny rarely arrives wrapped in ease. It disrupts before it develops. What you feel as unease is the tension between who you have been and who you are becoming. Comfort maintains the present, but discomfort demands growth. Without it, destiny remains distant, untouched, and unrealized. Discomfort challenges familiarity. It unsettles routines that once worked and exposes limitations you learn to live with. What used to feel safe begins to feel restrictive. Conversations feel shallow. Goals feel too small. Environments feel misaligned. This is not dissatisfaction without cause. It is awareness awakening. Destiny requires a broader capacity than comfort can provide, and discomfort is the signal that expansion is necessary. Growth does not occur where everything is predictable. Destiny pulls you into spaces where certainty is reduced and dependence increases. Discomfort strips away the illusion of control. It forces reliance on wisdom rather than habit, discernment rather than familiarity. When the old methods stop producing peace, you are pushed to seek new direction. Destiny unfolds when you stop clinging to what you have mastered and step into what still requires trust. Discomfort also reveals potential. You discover abilities you never needed before. Strength rises because weakness is exposed. Courage develops because fear is present. Faith deepens because outcomes are uncertain. Destiny demands qualities that only discomfort can develop. Without pressure and unease, those qualities remain dormant, unused, and unnecessary. Many people avoid destiny because they misinterpret discomfort as danger. They retreat to what feels familiar even when it no longer fulfills them. But destiny does not negotiate with comfort. It requires movement beyond convenience. Discomfort becomes the doorway. It confronts your excuses and challenges your attachments. What you are unwilling to release under comfort. Discomfort forces you to evaluate honestly. Discomfort also sharpens discernment. When everything is comfortable, choices feel optional. Under discomfort, clarity becomes urgent. You become more aware of what drains you and what strengthens you. You stop tolerating what wastes your time. Destiny requires focus, and discomfort removes distractions by making them unbearable to maintain. There is also a refining aspect to discomfort. It exposes motives. It tests commitment. It reveals whether your pursuit is rooted in purpose or preference. When the journey becomes uncomfortable, shallow desire fades, but true calling remains. Destiny survives discomfort. Convenience does not. What continues to pull you forward, even when it is hard, is often connected to your purpose. Discomfort realigns identity. You stop defining yourself by what you have been and start confronting who you are becoming. Old labels feel inaccurate. Old expectations feel limiting. Discomfort creates the internal shift that allows you to receive a new role, a new assignment, a new level of responsibility. Destiny cannot rest on outdated self-perception. Discomfort is not permanent, but it is necessary. It is the training ground, not the destination. It prepares you to carry what destiny requires without being crushed by it. What feels unsettling now is building resilience for what lies ahead. Destiny does not arrive to make you comfortable. It arrives to make you effective, purposeful, and aligned with what you were created to become. Closed doors are often misunderstood as rejection, failure, or loss. When something shuts down unexpectedly, the first reaction is usually confusion or frustration, but a closed door does not automatically mean you are being stopped. Many times it means you are being redirected. Direction is often clear after closure. When one path ends, it forces you to look where you were never planning to look, and that shift in focus can change everything. An open door can keep you comfortable in the wrong place. As long as access remains, you continue walking the same path, even when it no longer leads to growth. Closed doors interrupt momentum that is no longer aligned with purpose. They break patterns you would have repeated out of habit. What feels like loss is sometimes protection from staying too long in a space that cannot carry your future. Redirection requires interruption. If doors never close, you would never pause long enough to reconsider direction. Closure creates reflection. It makes you ask deeper questions about where you are going and why. It exposes motives that were hidden behind activity. When movement stops suddenly, clarity has room to surface. Closed doors also remove dependency. Sometimes you rely too heavily on people, systems, or opportunities that were only meant to serve a season. When access is removed, you are forced to develop internal strength rather than external support. Redirection often requires independence of thought, courage of action, and trust beyond familiarity. Closed doors push you to build what you once borrowed. There are times when a door closes not because you are unqualified, but because you are overqualified for what is next. Remaining where you are would limit expansion. Redirection elevates perspective. It introduces you to challenges that match your growth rather than constrain it. What once felt like opportunity may now be limitation, and closure frees you from mistaking one for the other. Closed doors can also protect timing. Arriving too early can be just as damaging as arriving too late. Redirection ensures alignment between readiness and opportunity. When something ends prematurely, it may be because the full picture is not yet assembled. Other pieces must move, other people must be positioned, and other lessons must be learned before the next door opens. Closure prevents premature exposure to what you are not yet prepared to handle. Redirection is rarely comfortable. It disrupts plans, expectations, and identity. You may have attached your sense of value to a door that no longer exists. When it closes, you are forced to redefine yourself beyond that access point. This can feel unsettling, but it is necessary. Purpose cannot be limited to a single door. Redirection expands identity beyond one role, one place, or one season. Closed doors also test trust. When the familiar disappears, uncertainty increases. You are challenged to move without clear guarantees. Redirection requires faith in direction rather than security in outcomes. You learn to take steps based on conviction rather than confirmation. This builds resilience and discernment that will be essential for what lies ahead. Sometimes the door closes because staying would require you to compromise. Redirection preserves integrity. It keeps you from adjusting values just to maintain access. What ends may have slowly begun to demand too much of you. draining peace, purpose, or authenticity. Closure removes the pressure to negotiate who you are in order to remain accepted. Redirection does not always reveal itself immediately. Often, it begins with uncertainty and unanswered questions. But movement starts the moment you accept that the closed door is information, not punishment. It tells you that the path forward requires a different direction, one you may not have considered, one that stretches vision and demands growth. What feels like being pushed back is often being turned toward what actually fits your purpose. There are moments when waiting feels like being ignored, as if nothing is happening and prayers are unanswered. Delay can create doubt, frustration, and fatigue, but delay does not automatically mean refusal. Timing and intention are not the same thing. What is postponed is not always denied, it is often being prepared. Delay exists to align conditions, not to cancel purpose. Immediate outcomes satisfy emotion, but delayed outcomes build capacity. What you want quickly may arrive before you are ready to sustain it. Delay protects you from receiving something too soon and losing it just as fast. It allows growth to catch up with desire. Without delay, success would outpace character, responsibility would exceed wisdom, and opportunity would become overwhelming rather than fulfilling. Delay also exposes motive. When results are instant, commitment is rarely tested. Waiting reveals why you want what you want. It clarifies whether your pursuit is rooted in purpose or impatience. If desire fades during delay, it may not have been destiny. What remains steady through waiting often carries deeper significance. Delay develops endurance. The ability to remain consistent without immediate reward is a sign of maturity. Waiting teaches discipline, focus, and trust. It strengthens resolve and sharpens discernment. Delay trains you to move with intention rather than impulse. It teaches you to value process over urgency. Many misinterpret delay as inactivity, but delay is often full of movement beneath the surface. Connections are forming, knowledge is increasing, perspective is shifting, strength is building quietly. What appears still externally may be growing internally. Delay is rarely empty time, it is preparation time. Delay can also prevent regret. If everything arrived on your timeline, consequences would follow your limitations. Delay allows space for mistakes to be corrected before they cost you long term. It slows you down enough to see what you might have rushed past. What you gain later often comes with fewer regrets than what you grab early. Waiting also teaches alignment. Delay forces you to examine whether your plans match your values. It gives you time to adjust direction without pressure. Some delays are invitations to refine strategy, not abandon vision. What seems like a pause may actually be a recalibration. Delay builds appreciation. When something takes time, its value increases. You handle it with more care, wisdom, and gratitude. What you receive after waiting is less likely to be wasted. Delay shapes stewardship, ensuring that what arrives is handled with respect rather than entitlement. Delay separates patience from passivity. Waiting does not mean doing nothing. It means preparing while trusting. You continue to grow, learn, and refine while time does its work. Delay keeps you engaged without forcing outcomes. It teaches you to cooperate with timing rather than compete with it. Delay does not change what is meant for you. It changes how you receive it. What comes later often arrives with clarity, stability, and readiness that would not have existed earlier. Denial closes doors permanently, but delay keeps them intact while conditions are being arranged. What feels postponed is often protected, preserved, and positioned to arrive at the right moment.